So I think this is kind of interesting, the way that the waves are moving as a way to composite or create the sense of movement. So you can see the layers like you would in After Effects to produce that. So I think it's pretty neat. So when you're thinking about your character, even though there may be overlapping parts to it, you still have to create what you'd see in the background. So you can see how this is like a puppet. And as you're designing in Illustrator or whatever program you choose to, you'll notice that, yeah, you'll have to create those elements in case there's any sort of movement. You can imagine if you didn't have those lines on that back leg, because the other leg was covering it, what would happen when you did move that front leg. Notice too the design itself, I mean there's all sorts of textures that they put onto it. So you can decide whether you want to go more realistic or more stylized. So another great example of using style to the design of the characters. So it's really realistic. Whereas in this example, you can see how it's becoming more simplified. The hair does have a lot of texture in it, but you can also notice the use of proportions by enlarging certain elements like the eyes and making the nose small. It changes the context of the character. So here's another design, really simple. It's becoming more and more basic. At the same time, you could say it's stylized. You can see the little additional hair follicle for the character's head, and then an additional prop like glasses can suggest that the character reads a lot, or I don't know, like me, plays a lot of video games, or did. Another idea of using proportions, big head. Look at the round nose too. So maybe you can use basic shapes when designing characters, and there's almost like this innate contentment in the character's eyebrows, right, and her eye shape. Whereas in this example, you can see that there's like 3 eyes. I don't know. This guy is really scary. Crossed arms, you know, in an alleyway. I don't know, not good news. We talked a little bit about poses. So you just from that pose, you can kind of get an idea of how this character could behave. Kind of this jolly, happy, a lot of curves. And here's another kind of a fun way of using the type of clothing to suggest how this character is, and then it's kind of playful with that hat there. Get it in focus. Pretty neat. So here's another design. You can see how it's really, really technical with all the wrinkles. All right, so you can imagine if you had to animate that, animating wrinkles would be quite a challenge. Whereas over here, I think this is a pretty neat one, is kind of like this abstract character. Well, I mean, it's probably a tree, but nonetheless, I think it's got some great elements to become a interesting character design. Another really interesting character design, the elongated arms, basic shapes for limbs. Notice the motifs too. You can think about maybe adding those elements like a heart on the chest there. I'll help the audience understand the character a little bit easier. It's really an interesting character though. I'm not sure what those things are for ears. Another really neat one. Great colors. It's kind of like a cross between a robot and a knight, maybe, and Strong Bad. So it's really neat. Really original design. Here's that super flat design, similar to what Japan has been doing. I don't know where I am right now. SpongeBob looks a little dopey, you know, those 2 teeth, that just sells it. And then the funny socks. Another really neat design, definitely a lot more human. A little bit more realistic. Great pose, and notice the use of accent colors along with the white and black. So that red really pushes the character design, and that flowing headband is working well along with that scarf, so pretty neat. Some more super flat designs. You can think of how this character, since it's 2D, doesn't need to have a lot of details. It's missing nose. Same with this character, missing a nose. Here's a 3D version showing texture and things like that with the balloon. Very playful and fun. There's some tight writing. Look at that. This is pretty neat too, the way they're using found objects to make it into a cow. Showed you a lot of Korean and Asian influence type of design so far in this video, but of course you can't forget about what's happening in the States. So of course Boxtrolls with their different designs I think is really neat. I especially love Egg. It's this packaging of a circle within a box within a human. So there's really something nice about that, and his eyebrows are really a nice touch for us to really feel for this character. I'm not a huge fan of the Boxtrolls themselves. I think they're kind of creepy looking, but you can see how they're so unique in that way, and they're all a little bit different. So that one's Fish. There's the helper, and she's a redhead, a little bit of an edge. And you can see, man, the character's expression and the clothes that she's a little bit well off. And there's the Boxtrolls. Pretty neat. Each one's a little bit different, kind of like the Seven Dwarfs. So this one has got a neat headpiece. This one's a really neat, cute character too, based on the shape. It's a little bit rounder, less tall. This is a really tall one. They're all a little bit different in color too. And just to compare my hand and the prop, they're pretty much the size of a hand. And I don't know, I'm not sure if this is the ones that they use to animate with. I'm in the Cartoon Art Museum. It's probably the biggest cartoon art museum I've ever been to. Look how cool this bathroom is. Wow. And it beeps when you walk in. Isn't that neat? So you can kind of like, if you're a little kid, you can go down like this, fit yourself in there. And there's even cartoons in the sink. Wow. This one too. How cool is that? That's funny. I'm not sure what the characters are saying. I guess that's Pooh and Pea. I wonder if there's anything inside. Nope. Nothing. Oh, and they go on an adventure together. That's too funny. The hand dryer, putting a mouth, that is very clever. And using the existing display to be the nose, adding eyes. Awesome. Some other designs, kind of a hybrid humanoid cat, and then referencing the past and a particular location, using found objects, placing it in unique locations. I love the design of this whale. Looks like it's stop motion. The film's called Paradise, made by them. Dogs are always a fun thing to animate. They're a quadruped though, so having 4 limbs or 4 feet compared to a human which has 2 usually means twice as much work if you have the dogs moving in frame. So that's something you need to think about, whether you want to actually animate that or not. There's tricks you can do to not do that. Here's some other designs, really kind of a playful doodle, really loose. Another particular style. This is really fun. I've always liked this kind of stuff. It ended up influencing my own work with the World's Next Top Superhero. The way they add the laces, it's kind of a nice touch. This is probably one of my favorite ones, just because of the color being used here. It's pretty unique with the doves on the sleeves. Some other designs referencing clown. Small eyes. Penguin. American Punk. If you remember in video blog number 2, you got a chance to meet Shilpa. And this is her animated feature length. Very stylized, very textured. And some others here too. I really like that monkey, all clothed up. That's really neat. And then the characters, that's a lot of characters. You'll probably want to stick to 1 or 2. 1 ideally. That's what the characters look like in the film. Pretty neat. It looks very involved. Playing off the cuteness proportions again. Another famous, iconic character. I'm not sure the name of this one or where it's coming from, but it's definitely Asian. So what do you think about this character? Do you think he's someone you want to see in an alleyway? Notice how the character's hands don't exist and all that muscle. It's a scary looking face. Flat top for the head and some weird, I don't know, ears. Is that a great backdrop? I want to take a picture of that. So you can see the heavy influence of Pixar's Cars, Disney's Planes, and this animated short, I believe. It's coming from this university. Pretty neat. It's kind of rare to see sleeping characters, so I thought this is kind of funny. Maybe it's like based on a koala bear, especially the way that they've worked the character in and the poses. It's really cute though. It's so lovable. This caught my attention too, the way that they're using paper to create characters. I want to say neat, but I say that too much. It's great though.